I'm John. I run Kennington Bakery. I set it up about 4 years ago. It may be classified as an artisan bakery, but it's a small local bakery. I've always loved bread. I spent about 10 years of my life living in Germany, where I discovered real bread as against white sliced English stuff. And I was on a sabbatical and I was running out of money, and I couldn't afford the bread I liked, so I thought I'd give it a go. And I thought, how hard could it be? And I wanted to do sourdough, so I did some sourdough, and it was quite hard. But I enjoyed the baking process, and I enjoyed what I produced. And I'd always wanted to do something a little bit more worthwhile. I thought I'd give it a go and try and sell some bread. And that was about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm still doing it, and people are still buying it. So it's good, and I'm still eating it. Every day there's something to enjoy about it, and I love it. I wanted something healthy, good, enjoyable, with real flavour. So I only wanted to bake organic, and I only wanted to bake sourdough. It's an ongoing process. I'm learning every day. It's a connection to nature, which I quite like. Well, I love actually, because grains are all different. Whether it comes, there are different types of grain. The seasons change, so the grain performs differently. Different flavours they've got. It's a whole range, and I love it all. I don't always get it right. It's a challenge. Bread has a direct connection with people, and it's very subjective. So they have a memory, and they have a preferred bread. So that whether it's from a supermarket or a local bakery, the huge commercial bakeries, they blend all their flours and they have it specifically blended so that it's consistent.
Yeah.
And bakers all love consistency. I love consistency because it makes life easy. But they're down to, they add gluten that they've got from China or something just to make it exactly the same, because they're fighting against nature rather than working with it. And I understand that from an industrial process, but it's an industrial process producing processed industrial food, and it's not good for you. And people will eat it because that's what they're used to, but I don't agree with it. So I would rather people enjoy it, notice the difference, because it's even at a subconscious level, it's a connection to nature. And that's one of the things I love about my bread and sourdough, and it being organic. One, you know what's going in there, and two, it brings variety into your biogenome. So it's another level of goodness for you. So it's easier for your body to digest, and you've got this variety of enzymes in your body, and it's not a monoculture. If you eat purely yeasted bread with commercial yeast, you're losing the biodiversity. Yeast takes over your stomach, and it doesn't break down the starches as well as the sourdough does. I like that my customers who can't eat yeast, they can eat my bread, even though it's got natural yeast in. And I love that people who have wheat issues can eat the spelt bread. And I love that people who have issues with bread in terms of their gut can also eat the sourdough, and they don't have any issues. In terms of feeling uncomfortable, bloated stomach, all of that goes away. It doesn't become part of the problem. Things like glyphosate, all the weed killers, parasite, it's not there. So the cocktail of rubbish that farmers may or may not use isn't there either. So you're eating a clean product. So I actually ran 3 leavens. Sometimes they call them starters. I ran 3 leavens. The leavening agent for the dough is what provides the yeast, the bubbles. It's what makes the bread rise, and to a certain extent what brings it together as well. Typically you'd use yeast, but I'm sourdough, so I only use my leavens. All my leavens are purely flour and water. That's it. There's nothing else in it. And it's organic flour, so there really is nothing else in it. And I'm using stone ground flour for flavour and also to get a particular kind of ferment going. Well, I've got 2 assistants and a master and loaf chef. It's a nice thing having a team. You also see different perspectives, so I can stand in the middle, hopefully, and try and balance them out. And it works well. It works well with bread. Every day's a battle, but it's a nice battle. So nothing's ever perfect, but you're dealing with. You might make a mistake yourself, but also you're dealing with different. The temperature's different. The grain may have changed. The nice bit about the challenge is to recognise that something's slightly different. Notice it, feel it with your hands, or see it with your eyes, or smell it. It's different. And then what are you going to do about it? Go with it, or change it slightly, and see what happens. What's the result? It's lovely. And if you make a mistake, you can usually save it, and save it in a good way rather than save it in a bad way. It's very important not to get too uptight. Nothing's the end of the world. You can try again. I think it comes from experience. Is to trust your feelings, and if you notice that the flour has changed, have you made a mistake? Did you mismeasure the water? Have you forgotten something? And take a moment to have a think about it. But on the commercial side, it's a living organism, and the clock is ticking, and also your customers are waiting for it. So looking at the clock is it's quite an important thing. You'd be surprised that 1 minute extra in the oven can make a difference. So there is a bit of pressure, but at the same time, it isn't life or death, and it pays to just take a little step back and not get too frightened, I think. Yeah. It helps have a perspective on things. It's a nice thing to bake a loaf, give it to someone, and they enjoy it, and then they tell you that they've enjoyed it. It's a very simple feedback loop, and there's a lot of me that goes into it. I'm baking bread that I like, and I want other people to enjoy it, and it's important to me. Otherwise, why bother doing it? I'm not doing this to get rich. I'm doing this because I get something out of it. There's an amount of care that goes into it. I want to eat it. I want my mum to eat it. I want everyone to eat it and enjoy it for what it is. The clock is always ticking, but there's something always happening. It's nature doing its thing, which you want to make it work for your benefit and not against you. Bread making is a collection of little things. So it's not one secret or one tricky thing. Everything has an effect on everything else. It's all interconnected. I have commercial deliveries for cafes and restaurants, and I have private retail, which I deliver through collection points around the area, but also do home deliveries, which makes quite a long day of it, and it's all done on a bicycle. And you're making the loaves so they're fresh and ready to be delivered, sometimes for 6:30 in the morning for a restaurant, all the way through to home deliveries after 7 p.m. in the evening. There's always something to do in a bakery, so it's very difficult to catch up with sleep during the day. I sleep Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. I try and catch up, but it's never enough. So baking's got everything. It's got some basic mathematics, from working out percentages and all the rest of it, to some communication skills, to planning. It's all there. I've always enjoyed bits of my work and doing things as well as you can and trying to enjoy it as much as you can. I left school at 16, and apart from the odd job working in a warehouse or whatever, I've been working in offices. I've spent 30 years trying to make things work a little bit better. I've been on the leading edge of technology. Essentially, you're just trying to push more data, because I was involved in networking, data around more quickly. When you have a successful project, it's a nice feeling, but it's kind of meaningless. And not to say I was looking for something more meaningful, I was. Certainly something, I felt I was doing something more worthwhile and more creative, something more connected to my environment. And I thought, I'll give it a go. I had no idea if someone would like the bread. Surprisingly and thankfully somebody did. It's satisfying on lots of levels. Working with people, bringing people on, working within the community, the locality, doing something creative. It's positive involvement in what I'm doing and what's around me. It is London, it's not easy, but it ticks lots of boxes. This is very rewarding. It is, just not financially. I want more money. With this baking stuff, it's changed a bit. But I would love to have a bakery shop, not a cafe, but a shop, possibly selling coffee, just for interaction, and also for people who are visiting the bakery to interact. I have this idealised version of people standing in a queue, not too long a queue, but different people talking to each other, just local people interacting, and instead of walking past each other every day, actually saying hello. But I always like to think you can drag people over on a budget who may feel the difference in the bread as well as taste the difference. And there's a big thing going on with the digestion of sourdough. They feel better. If I can drag some people in that wouldn't ordinarily eat something more expensive that's seen as a cheap basic commodity, if I can drag them over to starting to think about their food, that's one of my goals. Everyone, even if they don't eat bread anymore, even if they've got fictitious memories, everyone has a view on bread, what it tastes like, how it should feel, and above all, what it smells like. It's a really base instinct, and it's a way of drawing people together. One of the reasons why I still do home deliveries is that I like interacting. It's not that I want a long conversation or anything, but it's to did you enjoy the bread? How are you? And also with some young families around here, seeing the kids change. I've always loved the thought, oh look, I've got goosebumps, of one, that the kids get to eat good bread, and two, seeing them grow up. My kids are grown up. One day I may or may not have grandkids, but it's a lovely thing that one, they're consuming my bread, which is a part of them being well, and seeing them change from toddlers to youngsters. I love all that. Yeah. For Itello, my favourite cafe. Although all of my customers are my favourite.
Yeah.